So it's only 2 more weeks till people go away now. I wanted to make a quick video about some of the ideas coming up about how we're going to lean the farm. And we're already starting a lot of discussions that we're going to further implement in the month of November. We're moving to online training, and that's mostly complete now. I just need to set up the back end of bank charges and things like that, and we're going to be releasing that hopefully before I go away in 26th of November. Still got a lot of details to plan with that, so I'm not saying much more about it at this point till it's all clear. But Nicholas and Matt are staying until that time when Matt and I go on holiday, and we're going to design the whole business structure for next year. But naturally we're beginning to think a lot about it, and so we're having a lot of discussions about ways to improve efficiency whilst aiming to double the revenue at the farm. Things are going really good in the production sense, but I think we can double productions on this already very productive farm whilst minimizing the work input. So I think we're going to aim for 40-hour work weeks, and it's going to look like most of us are operating the farm enterprises with the layers and the broilers and probably a new sheep flock, but then coming back to work in the market gardens. And so something we've been doing now is just going through all of the crops that we grow in the market garden and thinking about how it would look if we invest in the paper pot transplanter. So we've been looking at how that affects our spacings and how many plants are in a bed therefore, and how many beds we'll do in each year. And that leads us to the sort of cost that we'll need to invest. We're going to probably invest in a paper pot transplanter with 10 and 20 centimeter spacings only. We don't need the 5 centimeter one. And so working that out in terms of the cost, we're going to be importing that from Japan. It's about 500 euros a year in seed trays. But that's, that's a bunch of money for some people to put into seed trays. However, the time saved, even on our 10-meter long beds, is going to be huge. I mean, pretty much everything we grow can be transplanted. We'll be using the 6-row seeder for things like rocket, carrots, garlics, obviously hand-planted, mesclun mix, radish, peas, squash, things that there's not many in the bed, turnip. They'll be done by hand still, but pretty much everything's going to be going by paper pot transplanter. We might invest in a couple of caterpillar tunnels that we can use in the beds over here. And we're basically going to eliminate all forms of waste around the farm. I'm going to just pull up we've been watching Ben Hartman's videos recently together as a team. Lean essentially comes from the Toyota Motoring Company, who, after the Second World War were pretty bombed out and basically wanted to reinvent their way of producing to make it as efficient as American manufacturers with basically no capital. And one important principle in lean, and lean is used in Scandinavian farming quite a lot, and there's many principles about it. I recommend if you're farming, then read Ben Hartman's book, The Lean Farm. It's a wonderful book, and he's bringing out a new book about applying that to his farm for people that want a bit more clarity around that. But the big thing for me has been looking at eliminating all forms of waste, multiple forms of waste, and we often don't clarify and identify those on a farm system. For example, I can just talk briefly about all of these and sort of how we relate to them, but defective products, it could be, early in the season, just having a caterpillar tunnel out on the field allows us to monitor the environment in, we're so far north here that early crops are unpredictable, as well as late crops in the year. Overproduction, like producing things we can't then sell, is just as costly as not producing enough, you could say. We got that one quite down because we're selling up in advance. We sell eggs on 6-month subscriptions, and we can produce things like broilers to order. Time for waiting, that's something about workflows, and we've got our process down in our slaughtery here in the middle of the farm. This year we're processing at double the capacity of last year, and it feels like that's really optimized. But it's about inventory and management. So we're talking, one thing we're going to do now with Nicholas and Matthew and Johanna and I is to totally digitalize all of our record keeping, and also digitalize our task management, which is something I haven't been willing to do in the past because there's been so many people here that having any kind of automation just brings in too much scope for error. But now we're whittling down to the core amount of people needed here, that I think that's going to work really well. And then really understanding people's gifts, strengths and talents and putting them in the right place so that we're not losing any value through unutilized talent. Something that's been going really well for us is transportation and selling through Ring. We have a 50-kilometer selling radius around the farm, and the biggest population that we sell to is about 50 kilometers away. And we don't spend much time in selling and transportation. We do drop-off points for the last 3 years, and we've put a lot of energy, especially Hannah, into creating drop-off points. We had our own farm currency. I'm not sure if I got a picture of it here. Here's an image of it here. So when we first started selling chickens, we made this currency. It's a play on the farm's name, but also on the original Swedish currency. And people would buy that. It's the equivalent of 2 kilos of chicken, and the birds would come out at 2.2, 2.4. And so we'd be able to take some cash on collection. But really in our enterprises, the slaughtery is working really optimally now. We've been doing the new trials with the new pens, and that's been working really good. That's going to save us hundreds of hours just by being able to pull the broiler pens on wheels. You might have seen in past videos. So there's not so much to optimize in that. We're going to start a smokery. It seems like we're going to move the intern wagon that's not needed anymore, possibly over the roof of the slaughtery, and have it inside the yard here. So that we have a hatch where we can put birds through from the chiller straight into brine for smoking. But that's working really well, and so same with the layers. Really, the layers are much better economically in terms of the time inputs. It takes only a third of the time to run the layer enterprise. Something that's changing is we're really going to optimize the market garden. So this is currently our egg packery that we use for sorting, grading eggs, but that's going to become a walk-in chiller for the market gardens that are it's going to be situated up by the new cleaning station, which is up here. And so it's really the market gardens that need the optimization, because it's about 3 times the human hours to generate the same revenue as you would get from the layers or broilers. And so we're really looking into this paper pot transplanter. It's going to save us, for a €500 input cost each year, it's going to save us a fortune. And our compost needs are going down dramatically because we've put all the major applications of compost down now that we don't need to do that. So it's an investment I'm really willing to make and play with, because I think it will save us 1,000 hours. And we're talking about like, hey, how do we double the revenue here and fit our work into a 40-hour work week? Now, farming is never, a 9-to-5 job, and it can't be if you want to do it effectively. But time has been the biggest limiting factor in my context since starting up, and I don't need to work as hard as I do. We've been doing a lot of work to share information and share stuff, and it's got to a point where it's like, hey, I've got things set up now in a way that's stable, and we know what we're doing, and it's clear, and we can keep benefiting a lot of people, but without needing to effort so hard. So I'm looking to sort of halve my input time next year onwards and do a lot less training on the ground here, which some people will, perhaps not enjoy, but it's really important to get our working rhythm down now and really efficient so that we're working sensible hours. We're pretty good in our record keeping and like managing inventory, which is another form of waste, having too much stock and too much money put in stock that affects your cash flow. But as we digitalize all the record keeping, that's going to become really clear and no room for error, because we're all going to know all of the systems at the farm. It's the way we're setting it up so that everyone knows how to run the market garden, do the basic accounting, do deliveries each week, because each person coming in the business will be looking after the farm for a month during the winter, so they'll need to know how to do that. But by having multiple people who know how to do everything, it means we've got some safeguarding going on in the background. Something that came up this year was additional processing, and we dropped the quality control in the slaughtery a little bit for the chickens. just because we were painstakingly, making sure every bird was absolutely perfect, and sometimes little pin feathers or whatever. It's really important to create a workflow in something like a slaughtery operation. And so we really worked on that this year to make sure the birds are moving continuously with no traffic jam, log jam as it were. And so that's been working really great, and there's no real drop in quality to the customer, but it's a much quicker process that doubled our speed this year. So it really is the market gardens and cutting out anything that's not necessary. So the sheep have all gone this winter. Cows are going over time for meat, and we might get a new sheep flock because it's very low input time. But we're really just getting rid of, we're going to spend some time now walking around the farm, just eliminating any tools, any bits of machinery, any items that aren't needed in our operation, just get them out of the workspace. We're going to be moving all the market gardening tools to the garden beds. We're going to be setting up permanent irrigation in all of the beds, so there's no movement of irrigation pipes around. And just placing of things. We've done a lot with the broilers this year with the new pens and playing with feed trials so that we can eliminate all time of weighing feed. And same with the layers. And it's really fun to see that. I think, 4 of us operating on a normal hour work week with 3 out of 4 weekends off, rotating round doing the chores so that other people can have time off, are going to be able to double the productions here. And it's super exciting because it's already one of the most productive farms in Europe per square meter, and I think we're able to double it. We know we can sell eggs from at least 1,200 hens, but we're thinking to go into 1,600 hens, so 4 egg mobiles moving 2 each day. And we have our neighbour's land which stretch out 6 hectares down here. And so we're thinking to do all the broilers off our farm next year and improve the neighbour's land as a long-term strategy, and it will make that incredibly efficient because they'll be moving in one straight line the entire time throughout the season. And so it's really exciting. Another big one about eliminating waste is motion studies, unnecessary movement, and I've talked about that briefly with the garden. But we're thinking of having electric bikes as the basis of how people get around quickly. Lean is not about working harder and faster all the time. It's about working really smart and eliminating waste and creating really good workflows, bringing really good products to customers when they want them, where they want them, in the quantity that they want. And so it's been really fun, just these preliminary discussions we've been having about how we're going to increase efficiencies. But it's only just beginning. I think come 25th of October, we're going to sit for 1 month hardcore planning. And as I said before, I'll try and document that because it's a really interesting process for us, and I'm sure other people will get a lot of insight from that too. And yeah, some exciting announcements to make over the winter. We've got some really cool things planned for next year. And we're changing the format of everything on the ground here. We'll only be doing very short trainings. We're going to have short, intense pastured broiler operation trainings, pastured layer operations, so that if you want to come just for a long weekend and learn everything about the business, just as a focused business training, we're going to be doing things like that. So no longer trainings next year by the looks of it, and a lot more time focused on the farm, just perfecting what we're doing and turning this into the most profitable per square meter regenerative ag site going.